presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? I am your host, Dominic Crissetto, co-host yet again with TJ Corman, and we are presented by Dano's Seasoning. As you heard in the open, I went out and grabbed me some Dano's Seasoning the other day. Yeah, finally. TJ had said he's used it before for his thick thighs and large fries. That's correct?
A fact.
It's like a tongue twister, but it's still awesome. I went out and got the Chipotle seasoning, and it's absolutely fantastic. I accidentally dumped a little too much, I thought, and I put it on a Mexican-inspired dish, and turns out it wasn't too much. It's flavoring without hitting you in the face, but it's enough that it's definitely got a taste. So I liked it a lot. At this point, now that I've finally yum tried me some, I will absolutely recommend. Yeah. Stamp of approval from me for sure after attempting to, try some of their flavors. So I do recommend Dano's Seasoning 100%. Be sure to go out and get you some. I did get it at Walmart, so it is usually available there. As far as this week goes, we had some crazy matchups.
Yes,
some
we did.
Didn't go the way we expected, as we've spoke of a little bit earlier. But let's go ahead and jump into some of your clip breakdowns, TJ, and I'll get this screen shared here. Our first one's going to be from the K-State Troy game. And this one is with K-State really on offense first. We'll go through, I think it's already set for half speed, but we'll get it going and see what we're looking at here. Oh, full screen. There we go. Yeah, it is already at half speed.
Nice.
So 3rd and 5, and K-State's got the ball. You can kind of tell us what you see, and we'll back it up as much as we need to here.
Looks like we need to get you on the screen now.
Yeah, that's right. That is the thing that I thought might happen. Here we go. There, add it to the stage.
Yeah, here we go. So looking at 3rd and 5. I mean, here's the thing. It's a smart blitz by what Troy's doing, right? They're overloading one side of the ball with their linebackers and stand-up rushers. Problem with that, though, is you're preparing for a pass rush, and you don't get pass, you get run. And so you've got your lead back one-on-one with the safety, and that's the easy mismatch. I mean, that's the easy mismatch all day long. The problem, like I said, the problem with what they've done against the run is that you've got all your linebackers up at the line of scrimmage. There's no second level protection. So he breaks free of that line of scrimmage. I mean, 15, 20 yards easily before he's even touched. So, and God forbid, like I said, number 3, he just made him miss. He looked like a mannequin standing still. It was easy. It was a great call. And also, I don't know if they're going to show the rear angle, but that guard center combo, I mean, it parted like the Red Sea. Yeah, look at that. I mean, you could have drove a truck through there. My grandma can run through that. That's textbook blocking. So
get one more time.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to play football. It's a perfect way to block. Like I said, especially against that defense, you've got no help, no second level help. Everything's 3rd level with that line with the safeties back here, and you got them one-on-one. All you got to do is make a guy miss, and you're off to the races. So, excellent play call, excellent execution by K-State, and I don't know what 3 was doing. I mean, what is that? He didn't break down. He got broken down is what happened. That was awful. But yeah, excellent play call by K-State. Definitely took advantage of what Troy gave him.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty evident, like we had kind of alluded to before, that this Troy team may not be as great defensively as they were last year. Was listening in on the Troy Boys podcast earlier this week. And the good news for them, and so far when watching that game, I did agree, it seems like the offense has actually improved for them.
Sure.
But what won them a lot of games last year was actually the defense. So we'll see how that comes when it gets into Sunbelt play, which they have their first Sunbelt game coming up this weekend. We'll get into that. As far as this next clip goes, TJ, as I asked you earlier, hopefully you have trademarked your move because this guy has stolen it.
Yeah.
Whoop.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
look at that. And he's a big guy making those guys miss like that. I mean, first things first, I mean, he easily beats the corner. I don't know what UVA's corner is doing. He's got his eyes in the backfield. He's being nosy. We call it as receivers, corners being nosy. Easy. I mean, he's lunch meat. Look at that. Yeah, I mean, he's lunch meat. And I tell you what, McLeod didn't throw a great ball. Good ball is going to put him in the end zone. I mean, that's reservations for 6 right there. It's supposed to be, but not a good throw by McLeod, but excellent route, and even worse, defensive corner play. Like I said, stop being so nosy, man. Get your eyes out of the backfield. He's already got inside leverage. This corner does. So if I'm a receiver, I'm lined up. I already win. I got outside leverage without having to do any work at all. Yep. And then, like I said, I just need my quarterback to give me a better ball, and I'm dining for 6 at that point. So, great route.
Fake too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, great route, great fake. It helps, like I said, when you're already winning off the line of scrimmage anyway, and also you got a nosy corner. All the recipes were there for disaster for UVA. The only thing that didn't happen was the touchdown, which is what it should have been. McLeod needs to get that ball up a little bit higher. It looks like he tried to guide it in there instead of just letting it rip.
Yeah.
If you let that thing rip, let your guy run under it, trust his speed, trust your arm. Don't stop trying to be so accurate with the ball, and just go play football. That's a touchdown. So, but overall, excellent play, especially by that receiver. Great job.
Nice. All right, we will go back to the K-State Troy game for this one, although this time Troy will actually be on offense in this clip as we see, and you can obviously describe this better than I can, but we've got a little bit of a wide receiver switch, which gets the first down and the big gain overall as we play through this one. Again, this one will be full speed first time around.
Yeah, weird switch. I don't know. I guess it's sort of a pre-snap read by the quarterback. I mean, I guess he knows, he's going where he's going with the ball, and he wants his bigger guy going over the middle to take that hit. But weird switch. If I'm that inside slot guy, I'm like, no, leave me there. I want the ball. What are you doing?
Right.
Why are we switching that? But great catch, especially in traffic. Excellent. Look at this ball. Look at that.
Yeah. Between
2 defenders, puts it right between the 1 and the 4. And, again, he knows he's going to take a big hit, and that happens. Happened to me, happened to all, lots of receivers. And you hold on to it. And I tell you what, those catches hurt a whole lot less when it's caught.
Oh, yeah.
So
absolutely. And what's funny is with this switch, they both ended up being wide open. I'll slow it down for this one. I just caught that. I don't think I caught that the first time around, but this second time through, the guy that switches towards the bottom of the screen is even more wide open, actually. And
that's where I thought he was going to go with the ball, because they got free releases everywhere. 22. Look at the middle linebacker. 22. He never reroutes 14. Never puts his hands on him at all. I mean, he could have had his pick of where he wanted to go with the ball. But like I said, great throw, great catch in traffic. I wouldn't have drawn it up that way. I don't know, again, what that switch was for, but I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great play there. And now we'll go to another great play from one of the better games of the weekend.
Yeah.
As you and I were lucky enough to be there in attendance and almost there for the upset. But this
would it have been an upset at this point?
I know, right? I mean, I saw someone put it was actually the Ferrari and Smith podcast talk about can App State take down another giant? And I'm like, I even commented on it from the brand. Sunbelt Syndicate said UNC ain't no giant.
Yeah, not only are they not a giant, it's becoming more of an even matchup every time we play them. I mean, the score,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the score dictates every single time that we're evenly matched teams. I mean, in 2, you're recruiting from the same, bunch of people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now it's gotten kind of evenly recruited across the North Carolina landscape, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina lines, Virginia, the surrounding states. We're recruiting the same talent. Right. You might get, a 3-star versus a 4-star that goes to Carolina and App State. Talent's the same. And it's been showing that. And I think at this point, honestly, I think they'd be silly to do away. I think we got NC State next year, looking ahead.
Not next year, the year after that we got State.
Okay, so 25, 26, 25, something like that.
25
season.
Yep, 25.
But I think they need to keep this Carolina App State rivalry going. It's been great for the state, financially, and also just great for us as fans to watch, right? I mean, who doesn't want to watch your in-state rivals? I mean, again, I use the word rival loosely. We just started this, but it's so fun to watch, and it's so I've got friends that I work with that graduated from Carolina. We're going to be friends regardless the outcome, and it's just so fun to talk to them about it, to be there with them, to visit with them. So anyway, let's roll the clip. But I just say before that, this is something I think we need to keep doing.
Yeah. Well, the thing with the Giant thing, real quick, the reason I'm saying that too is this is the closest game out of the 3 in the series, and it still went to double overtime. The other 2 games are closer in score. So
right,
yeah. Not a football giant. You want to talk about athletically overall? Sure. Not a football giant. All right, here we go. This is a 4th and 1 play. The App State had to have this one, and luckily they did, and we're about to see how they had it in this play here.
I mean, this is perfect. Bunched up line of scrimmage. It's a great call. I mean, great fake by Aguilar. I would have put it, I think we talked about this a little bit more before the ball snapped or before we went on live. Sorry. I'd have put it a little bit further out, right? I'd have put a little bit of air under it so my tight end can run under it. But regardless, great throw, great catch, great play call. I mean, great play. Yeah. I mean, everybody's is 4th and inches roughly. Everybody's thinking quarterback sneak or some sort of dive play. And you call a great play and have a great fake by your quarterback. I mean, Aguilar carries this fake out brilliantly. I mean, it almost does not get any better than this.
I was going to say, us being there live, I think we were both on the trailing end zone, or the end zone in the front here. I actually thought he fumbled the snap, to be honest with you, because I'm seeing behind the line of the scrimmage, so I can't see what happened.
Yeah. I never saw the ball, period. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I was like, are we running it? What is happening? I got my hands on my head. I'm trying to figure out. My dad sitting beside me, and I'm like, what? Can you see the ball? Like, what's happening? Before I knew it, the ball's in the air. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's a great play call. I like Aguilar. I think 4 is going to be really, really good. It'll be interesting to see, once everybody's healthy and back, what that looks like. Because they know you say, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you got none. I think we got our guy, quite personally.
Absolutely. 100% agree on that. And it was awesome that Miller Gibbs from, the famous Gibbs Racing is the one who catches that pass.
Right.
That guy looks like he's from Top Gun, by the way. He's got the mustache and everything he's got in the intro video. All right. Last play here actually comes from our favorite team. Just kidding. The Georgia Southern Eagles, as they took on UAB. Man, this game looked like it was out of reach in the first half. And, well, I should say this. It looked out of reach with like 8 minutes to go in the first half, but UAB caught up. But before it got to that way, Georgia Southern had extended their lead with this great quarterback keeper. And since this one's on the plus, I can't slow this one down. But we're going to see it in the slower motion replay a couple times after they run it. This is Bryn here, quarterback keeper. TJ, I'll let you take it away on this.
Yeah, easy read. Easy read. Defensive end crashes, no contain on the outside. And they lose contain and it's a great play call, great setup and design, because you've got your lone receiver. He's coming in motion. He's bringing that contained player with him, right? So if it's obviously man, they knew it was going to be man pre-snap, and they get the safe or get the corner coming down hard with that reverse action. You got your defensive end. He loses contain, easily bites. I mean, he walks in. I mean, that's textbook. Great call, great execution.
Yeah, there really wasn't even a block thrown on that defensive end.
Nine had nobody to block. He was just hanging out.
Yep. All right. Well, that's going to do it for the clips for this week. Thanks for going through those with us, TJ, as we get back into talking a little bit about the action from last week. We've got a couple of good matchups. We had some against ranked teams, obviously. This first one, I guess we'll just go with how I'm seeing it on my screen.
Sure.
If you're cool with that. We just kind of talked about it, and we can still loop it in here. But we'll go with the game that we were both at, App State versus North Carolina, number 17. We'll run through some highlights as we talk about that one. I mean, wow, I didn't even know if the game would happen for a little bit, honestly, with how the day started off with the weather. And I know we tried to get meet up for tailgate that didn't really work out. It's okay. wasn't much of a tailgate. Looked like most people were kind of hanging close to the cars in case the weather turned back for the worse. But turned out to actually be a beautiful day for some football.
Right. Yeah. Sun popped out, and I mean, and sun came out too. Perfect timing, like around 3. And we still were able to, hang out and have a little fun in the parking lots, and we enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a great time and great football weather.
Yeah, and the best part about this game to me was that it stayed close throughout. There wasn't any 40-point comeback needed in the end in this one like there was last season.
Right.
Like you said, this is an even matchup. I don't know why people don't think that could. I mean, I guess I could see after how last year ended for App that people have some question marks about how good they're going to be, especially if they played an FCS opponent week 1. But I think they just showed it, right? I mean, look, there's a busted coverage on a big run play, right? And some of his yards, Hampton's a beast. First of all, I mean,
he's built like a bowling ball.
Yeah, 230 for 3 touchdowns. No free ads. We're getting that out of here. Back to the football. Nate Noel had a good day on the ground too. And what's funny is I wasn't sure he even had reached 100 yards. My dad and I were talking up in the stands, and he just had like more of the smaller yardage type of stuff. Yeah. Hampton obviously broke a couple big ones. It made it really obvious how big of a day he was having. But Noel quietly went for 127 and had 2 touchdowns of his own.
And our guy Davis, I mean, he led with 7 receptions, 117 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, we did it evenly, right? It was evenly distributed football game. I think both sides played exceptionally well on offense. Both sides gave up some big plays, right? That's going to happen. Right. It's college football. Not every play is going to be technically sound, and you take advantage of what the defense gives you. There's going to be breakdowns in plays, and it's going to be a matter of who takes advantage of what and when. Does it come at the right time? I.e. that for 4th down and inch play. I mean, look at this. This is perfect. This is the same play we ran against Texas A&M last year. Excellent situation, and I mean, great play calls across the board. I think both teams played well enough offensively. Again, like I said, defensively, missed tackles like this, gave up some very big runs on both sides of the ball. We had our share of breakaway runs as well. But like you said, 2 teams very evenly matched. I think we need to keep doing this. I love I use the word rivalry. It's very loose. There's no hatred, at least on my side for Carolina. I don't hate them at all. But I do think that this is something that's good for the state financially. And I think this is good for the players. A lot of these guys grew up together, went to school together. They know each other from high school and playing ball and AAU and all that kind of stuff. I think this is good for both brands. And I think we need to keep it going for sure.
Absolutely. And I think going back to your earlier statement too about Aguilar's, we see him to Davis there in that one.
What a throw.
The kid just, I mean, it looks like he's been in this level of football for more than one game, right? And he hasn't.
Absolutely.
He played last game was his first one. He wasn't even the starter. He comes in here and looks like this. I mean, 1 bad interception, and it was just, that's gonna happen. I mean, other than that, I feel like he outperformed Drake May.
I mean, he's growing pains, right? I mean, it's gonna happen. I mean, it's like you said, your first actual game. Like I said, you come in last week and it's sort of I want to use the word cupcake, but I use that term loosely. You come in against a team that you're going to beat. It's easy, no pressure, that kind of thing. But then you come in against a Carolina team that's really good, a quarterback, Drake May, who's, nationally ranked easily top 5 quarterback in college football, at least in my opinion. And you come out and you outperform them relatively, right? I mean, you come out and you give them that kind of performance. I mean, that ball across the field, put it right on the money. It doesn't get any better than that. I think he's going to be good for years to come. I think we've got our guy.
Yeah, 100% agree. It was a disappointing loss, but in the end, I think we're going to be just fine. This one is the one we had two clips from earlier. Troy and K-State.
Right.
So this one we both thought was going to be a little bit closer than it actually was. Started off not bad, but you could obviously see K-State was going to win this game pretty quickly. To me, it was going to take a phenomenal effort and some luck from Troy to come back and win this one. And that's not diminishing what Troy can do or was last year, but K-State, it's giving them all the recognition that they deserve as being Big 12 champions from last season. So not ultimately surprising how this one went when you saw it start to take off on the field. But I think, again, we were going in, we both thought this one could be a little closer.
Yeah, I think if you look at it in the grand scheme of it, and when you paint the picture that you just painted, overall, they won Big 12 last year. They should have been better. They are better, right? They're the better team. If you look at it holistically, on paper, it looks like Troy should have been a lot closer. And that's why games played, right? That's why we play it in between the lines. We don't play it on paper. If that's the case, there's a lot of champions that would have happened or that didn't. So the game is played on the field. I thought this was going to be a lot closer. I still picked K-State to win, but I didn't pick 42-13. I mean, that's insane. I did not think that was going to happen. But there's an obvious talent gap there, speed gap. I think K-State got on the edges a lot quicker, and there were some gashes up the middle too. They gave away a lot of big runs. Troy did. It was one of those games where I don't think really they understood how fast K-State was going to be. You've got Brooks. He had 7 receptions for 94 yards and a touchdown. Hayward, 250 yards and 3 touchdowns doesn't sound like a huge day, but he didn't need it to be. It didn't have to be, and it was a running back by committee kind of thing for them. So he didn't have to have a huge day for them. I mean, Troy's running back, Vito, he had a nice game, 17 carries for 83 yards, pretty good average, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, it needed to be a little bit more. Watson didn't have a bad game. He just didn't get enough going, and that's mostly due to the pressure that K-State was bringing on him. But wide receivers on both sides looked pretty good in this one. That was impressive for me to see these guys coming out, especially Lewis there. Did you see that one-handed catch?
Yeah, and Troy's got some size, and both teams do. But at the receiver spot, Troy's a hard matchup to defend. I mean, all of their guys, you're talking 6'2" plus, and they're big kids. They're not just some skinny guys that are running routes. I mean, there's some big guys. Look at 89. He's a tight end, but still, they got some guys. They got some players.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, in another Power 5 matchup, we had James Madison taking down Virginia.
JMU.
And this is one, correct me if I'm wrong, we both called James Madison winning this game, right?
We did. We absolutely did. They're making us look like prophets.
Yeah, points to us on this one. And, man, I'll tell you what, this is one of those ones that as we sat in the truck waiting to tailgate, we were watching, and I was not believing my eyes with how much JMU jumped out to a lead like this. Let's see, I could pull it up. I think, was it 17-7 at one point?
Yeah, I believe it was 17-7 at one point.
In the first quarter.
Yep. Yeah, and it got to a point where I thought this was gonna be a runaway. And I told my dad, we were watching, like I said, in the car, same deal was raining. I told my dad, I was like, don't be surprised if JMU beats Virginia handily. Once they started winning, I said I didn't predict that. But JMU is good enough, and they've always had good players. It's one of those situations, those App State Carolina things. They're both Virginia, both recruiting some of the same guys that went to school together, that played against each other, all of those things. I mean, it's personal for them, right? And not in a negative way, not in a bad way. They don't, there's no bad blood. At least I'll preface my comments by saying I don't know. I'm not from Virginia, so I don't know what kind of blood Virginia and JMU has. But I would assume that it's probably not bad blood. It's just I want to beat you. I want to be the best team in Virginia. App State wants to be the best team in North Carolina, and it's like that everywhere.
Yeah. And I think like you said, there's probably not really bad blood between players so much because, like we said, we don't play these teams all the time. But the fan bases, that's what makes it fun. The bad blood is a fun thing, right? Like, that's what we want. We want to go to work and talk some trash.
Exactly. Co-workers.
Be our neighbors and say, hey, my team beat yours. So I think this is what college football is all about. Obviously, unfortunately for Virginia, they were, playing a game in remembrance of some of the guys they had lost from last year with the unfortunate shooting that had happened. But this is what college football is about. It's bringing people back together. And obviously they had one heck of a game to watch while they're there as well. And this is what we're talking about, Giants. I don't know how many Giants are in the ACC. There's not too many of them. Maybe Clemson.
Maybe one or two, Florida State, Clemson. And I don't know that Clemson is right now based on that performance they had against Duke. Or we'll see, wait till the season plays out and see how good Duke ends up being. But we got some viewing to do as it relates to how this season plays out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we'll take a look at that one as we move on to our matchup that we both called Texas State winning, but unfortunately UTSA came out on top in this one. A low-scoring affair. That if one team was going to win this game, it wasn't something that I would predict would be so low-scoring. What do you think on the final score of this thing?
Yeah, same. Especially the performance that Texas State put up last week against Baylor, which, by the way, Baylor lost 13-20 against 12th ranked Utah. And the way Texas State did them last week, it's kind of got me thinking, how good is Texas State, or at least it had me thinking that. How good is Texas State actually? And then you see, them usually lose that way to UTSA. I didn't see that coming, and was disappointed severely by the performance that Texas State put on. Offensively, they just didn't have enough. I mean, they didn't lead in almost any category except maybe I think they had one receiver that had 5 receptions for 79 yards. I think it was Donnelly. And apart from him, there was really no one stood out to me. And that's disappointing based on what we saw last week. So it is college football, and it's hard to get a read on all of it. It's, especially this early in the season, who's really who they are. We don't know. But I do know that, it was impressive the way they beat Baylor, and then Baylor only losing by the margin they did against, number 12 ranked Utah. But then, Texas State goes and lays an egg at UT. So I don't know how to call it.
Yeah, and in a good way, UTSA was one of the better teams in the group of 5 last year. They had that Troy game and that in the bowl game. Oh, excuse me. So, if you're going to lose a game, at least it's to a quality opponent. But again, you just thought with the scoring output from the week before against a Power 5 conference team that they'd probably put up more points than the 13 they ended up putting on the board here. Now, as we've seen with stuff in the past, maybe it's a little bit of a too high on yourself or too much media attention or something that, it ends up catching up with you. And when you're playing a quality opponent, it's going to be even tougher. So maybe that's kind of what got into the Bobcats' head here. Still a good game. It's just a low scoring affair, more like that UTSA and Troy bowl game from last year, really, where it was, everyone I think was betting the over because of how many points both offenses could score. And it ended up being a defensive battle. It's pretty much the same thing here. Just Frank Harris outduels Finley, unfortunately, for us Sunbelt guys. But yeah, that one didn't go our way. One that did go our way.
Yeah, it didn't start out that way though. I thought that I didn't think it was supposed to be as close as this was. Marshall gave us a bit of a scare early on, but ended up pulling away, when they needed to and making the plays that they needed to down the stretch. But they gave East Carolina a lot of life that they did not deserve. I don't know what Marshall was doing, but ultimately you win the game, and that's what it's all about. But it took them a while to get going.
It did. And, I think we had touched on this last week when we were talking about this matchup. Obviously, these two teams had a lot of familiarity with each other, previously being in a conference together, or, just lots of matchups in the past. I don't know how much that actually helps in a matchup when it's probably been a while since those games have occurred. But
right. You're definitely not looking at that old of a game film.
Yeah, definitely not. I don't know how much, they go over that with the players. Maybe you could speak on that. I mean, App State and Marshall didn't play when you were there,
Right.
but that was a huge rivalry. Is that something that coaches or players really hark on when it's been years and there's not so much of an attachment with the current teams, or what happens in the locker room when you're about to play like a historical game, but it doesn't mean much to you guys that are there now because it wasn't something you just did last year or the year before type of thing?
Yeah, it's not much. I mean, it doesn't mean much to us at all. I think just the fact that, you just want to win. You always want to win. But apart from that, it doesn't do much. I mean, time I think App State played Marshall, Randy Moss was on the team. And he went for like a million yards against App State. So, it does nothing for us. But again, it's nice to know that there is some history there. But for guys that are playing, it's about what you did last week. What do we have the game plan against? And how tough can we make it for the team that we're playing against today?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I am having a tough time finding the highlights for the UAB Georgia Southern game. Did have that one on ESPNU. Maybe that's why the highlights aren't up as much. So quickly talking about that one as we finish watching up some of these highlights with ECU and Marshall. That one was the score fest that I thought maybe UTSA and Texas State would give us.
Right.
And
yeah. Agreed.
the Eagles come away with a 49-35 victory in that one. All kinds of points on the board. Definitely, I'll say this. As an App guy, it was still a really fun game to watch as an outsider because it was just back and forth, punch for punch. So, until Georgia Southern kind of pulled away there just a little bit in the fourth quarter to really put it home and put it away for good.
Yeah.
What do you think about? What do you think
it was
about
blow
Georgia
for blow,
Southern's?
man.
Yeah, new quarterback, Brian. It's not got the E. It's BRIN. So
yeah, I think it's Brian. Brent. It looks like Brent because I brine a lot of meats, and there's an E on the end of that. So
there you go.
It looks like Brent to me.
There you go. We'll go
but
with
no,
that.
I think he's good. I think he's a little green. He's not as good as a runner as traditionally Georgia Southern has had, but I think they are kind of getting away from a lot of that. And most offenses are, if they're smart, right? They don't want their quarterback running, 150 yards a game unless you're Lamar Jackson, and nobody's Lamar Jackson except Lamar Jackson. So,
well, Lamar wasn't even himself this past weekend, so I'll have to throw that out there.
Right. Well, and also didn't have, I don't think he had
Lamar.
to be. Yeah. Right. Right. I have him on fantasy, and I was like, "Come on, bro! Like, what are we doing?"
Yeah. He had that one. He had that one where he's just like having the ball out here by himself. Like, you can't be doing that, man.
Yeah, he does that a lot, and I'm just like, I like it because it looks cool as an offensive guy, but I'm also like, bro, don't fumble. Like, we can't have that. So, but no, I think, like you said, it certainly wasn't a snooze fest. That's for sure. There was lots of points both ways, and like you said, Georgia Southern ended up pulling it out late. No defense was played by either team until late in the fourth. Like I said, Georgia Southern kind of hunkered down a little bit. But overall, it was worth the price of admission if you're an offensive guy and you like watching points. It was worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I enjoyed it. Definitely when I'm trying to figure out what everybody's got this year, it's fun to watch those types of games where you've just got constant action. So good for the Sun Belt coming coming away with a win over an American team. Obviously, UAB got that invite over the past offseason as they moved from Conference USA over to the American. In another game that probably went the way we thought it would, maybe not as strongly, actually, but South Alabama takes down Southeast Louisiana 35-17. I think we did touch on the fact that, Southeast Louisiana has been an FCS playoff team, kind of a little off and on. It's not like they're a traditional power. So
right.
maybe that's what brought a little bit of some problems for South Alabama. I would have expected them to win this game more, something along the lines of, 48-7 or 48-10 type of thing.
Right.
And probably keep this South. I think it's the Lions. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I think the Lions offense from getting on the scoreboard so many times, not that they did too many more times, really. It's only 3 scores total for the day. Still a comfortable win in the end, but I don't know. Do you think that score surprised you a little bit, or was that kind of where you thought that one might go?
Well, it didn't surprise me as much as it did kind of validate what I thought from last week. They didn't. There wasn't a lot of offense, right? I thought there would be more. I mean, you're talking, they did get towards the end of the game. 14 points in the third and fourth quarter. That's a lot of offense, depending on how you look at it for college football. But it didn't start out the way I thought. Alabama, they started out very, very slow in the first quarter. Couldn't really get anything going. Ended up, overall doing pretty well. I think, nobody really stood. I think they had Lacey. He had, I think it was $139 and a touchdown as far as receiving goes. So kind of a ho-hum game, right? I don't.
Yeah.
Southeast Louisiana, I don't put too much stock into who they are in terms of playing against the Sun Belt. I don't think it should have been as close, although one would argue, 18 points isn't terribly close, but it should have been – margin should have been a lot more.
Yeah, I agree. I think, again, that's one of those things where the depth finally came into play towards the end, but why was the first half so close? So that's kind of the question you ask there. And is South Alabama going to be the team we all kind of, and even a lot of the national media thought going into this year? I think that's a little bit remains to be seen after dropping the first game to Tulane and maybe a little bit of a struggle there, if you want to say that in that one. What about this game here between ODU and Louisiana? One that we did not predict correctly.
No.
But the Monarchs come away with the victory in this one, a little bit of a shocking fashion for us anyway. What do you think about
absolutely.
this?
Yeah, Woodbridge went crazy. 285 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was a heck of a day. He I think he really showed out. But I don't. It obviously ended up not being enough. Hicks had 103 rush yards. He didn't score, but then they also had a receiver almost go. ODU almost had a receiver and Murphy go over 100 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns. So everything that Louisiana did, ODU countered. Poised football, great ball placement. Look at that. That's a beautiful ball right over his shoulder. It doesn't get any easier. Now you're dropping it right in the bucket. I think we're gonna, before this season's all said and done, I think we're gonna owe our friends at ODU an apology for our take at the beginning of the season.
We might. That's true.
But hell of a performance by ODU. I think Louisiana's got some work to do, in particular on defense at their corner and safety spot. They were getting beat up and down the field like a drum. Whoever it was that they wanted to take a turn running a route could catch a ball. They were getting beat left and right. It was insane to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, this not the way I thought this one would go. It doesn't surprise me that Louisiana ultimately ends up scoring 31 points.
Right.
But I did not see the offensive output just exploding from ODU in this one like it did. As we see these two guys talking here. But yeah, that was definitely the well, I don't know. Let's weigh this out. So was that more of a surprise to you than James Madison beating Virginia, I guess?
I would say yes. I would absolutely say yes, because James Madison beating Virginia to me is not a surprise. James Madison is as good or better on paper than Virginia is. I think they've got the same athletes. They come from the same stock. I think they're just as good. But Old Dominion, I think that was a huge shocker, in my opinion, based on what I saw, based on what they were last year coming into this season. I did not see this in any way.
Yeah, and I think ODU fans are saying, we told you so, but hey, the rest of us, we were doubters. But yeah, I agree with you. It was a bigger shock to me to see this score than it was to see JMU over Virginia. I don't think there was any other scores that were shocking enough to even come close to those two games. So we'll go to this last game here. We had Coastal Carolina taking on Jacksonville State as they moved up into the FBS for really only their second game. You can see Grayson McCall warming up there before this one got started. They end up taking this one 30-16. Pretty solid outing, I guess I could say. I'm not blown away by anything here, but maybe Jackson State or Jacksonville State. Sorry, I think I said Jackson State.
Not to be confused with JSU.
No, definitely not. But maybe they're a little bit better than I thought they might be coming into this year. I didn't really have much knowledge on them, but well,
I don't know. I don't know how good Coastal is. I can't tell. And again, it's early. It's early in the season. I don't know what, obviously we've still got, 10 games to play out, 10, 12, or, 9 or 10 games to play out to find out which team is going to be who they really are. But I'm not, against, I know they played UCLA the first game, and we talked about coast to coast. That's tough. It's always going to be tough no matter what. But they gave them a great game. They gave them a great showing. And then they come here against Jacksonville State. And it's like, you and I thought, based on how UCLA game ended, that this would be a rout. Yeah. That this wouldn't even be close. And so I don't know how to call it. I don't know. I don't know what. 268 yards by Grayson McCall is pretty good. One touchdown. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at. They almost had a 100-yard receiver, 75, 77-yard rusher. I mean, they did enough. Like you said, they did enough to win. I'm not impressed.
Right. And I think I'd agree with that. I mean, you got a 1-point game at the half. This is a team that's moved up to the FBS for the first time ever. It just shouldn't be that close for that long. I say that, and App State kind of had the same kind of thing with Gardner-Webb, and then they turned it on.
Sure. So
you could say Coastal turned it on, but I mean, you scored 13 in the third quarter, but the fourth quarter was 7 apiece. So I mean, they kind of came back and evened it back up there. So you really had one quarter where you were kind of more dominant on the field, and that was it against a team that's coming in for the first time to try and get this done. I agree with you. I don't really know exactly where they're at just yet, but they are not striking fear into people, I would say, as they did the past few seasons, really. And
especially a year ago.
Some of that's a new coach, right? But
you
would think they'd be kind of sorting some of that stuff out by now. I think that wraps it up for week 2. We will get right back at you with your week 3 preview after this ad from Dan.
Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some.
Dano Seasoning, food's favorite flavor.
Yum, yum, get you some.
I'm Joe Burrito, your favorite burrito. Whoa, whoa.
Joe, we all know you're the best.
What?
But you can always do better.
What you got?
Try the new Dano's Hot Chipotle.
Hey. Ooh, that's spicy. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum, get you some.
All right. And as mentioned, go pick up your Danos at your local Walmart or order it online with promo code DAWGGOS, DAWGGOS. That will help us out in some fashion or another. And we will try and put more Danos on our food. So I know I'm like doing it after trying it out. Definitely a great product. Glad they are a sponsor of the show and College Football Dogs overall. TJ, what are we looking at for this week? I don't know. Is there a matchup, I guess, you're circling as kind of the top one before any others, or are you looking at the local one with App State and ECU going at it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, App State ECU. I'm looking at that. I mean, they owe us from a couple years back for what we did to them in Charlotte. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Um, but
Oh, is that me or you with the stuff in the background? But I'll pick up here. I think maybe something was playing here for a second, but App State ECU, we'll go ahead and start there. It's the first one on mine, probably because I follow App State and it's pulling up there first. That one's a 3:30 kick on ESPN Plus. App is a 9.5-point favorite. I don't know though, because this one's just got that local feel to it where
right.
ECU is going to put a bunch of people in the building. Maybe not as much as they thought because they're down a little bit. They've lost some interest. It's really not. I don't know if you've ever done that type of drive, right? But it's like 6 hours. Is it 5 hours? Something like that?
Yeah. Well, I'm from that area. Well, Eastern North Carolina. So I grew up at Atlantic Beach, area, driving from there to Boone. I mean, it's a 5.5, 6 hour drive. So I don't know that that's going to make much of a difference. ECU they're a good team for who they are. I think it should be, App should if App plays the way they played against Carolina, then it shouldn't really be close.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think it should be close. But I am interested to see, and call me crazy, but Georgia Southern, Wisconsin, and now ODU and Wake Forest. I'm excited about those two games. I don't know that Georgia Southern is going to do a whole lot against Wisconsin, just because up front the matchup is tough and games are won and lost in the trenches. And I don't, it's from a depth perspective, I think they rotate a little bit easier
Right.
than what our guys in the Sun Belt can do. But speed wise, I do think Georgia Southern is much faster than Wisconsin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Wisconsin's got the big boys up front, and some of that is good because then you can move your guys around a little bit easier when the running backs got the ball. Although, look, with this Luke Fickell offense, Luke Fickell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Phil Longo. I was like confusing the two.
There's a lot of L's going on in there.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of L's. So Wisconsin's got one hell of a running back, and he's done next to nothing this year because they've gone to this air raid offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have a Wisconsin fan that sits beside me at work who said that this kid was trying to transfer out before the season started because of this offensive change. And they talked him into staying. And now I'm telling you, he probably is regretting that decision because he's not getting the rock like he should. And when you have a guy that talented, I don't care what kind of offense you're running, you need to get the ball into that kind of guy's hands more often.
You get your key players the ball no matter what. And Wisconsin's known for having a good running back. I mean, over the years, they've always had quality. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, he came from there. There's a couple backs before him. I mean, they've always had quality running backs to come through Wisconsin. The fact that he's not getting the ball is a bit shocking. It speaks to coaching. It speaks to my philosophy is better than what's best for the team kind of thing. Wanting to get more credit than you probably should. So I don't know, but we'll see,
Yeah, and as we see here, wouldn't surprise me at all to see them do something similar to what they did in Nebraska, although Nebraska wasn't very great last year. I think they're going to have to be better than that to beat Wisconsin this year, but it could be kind of a specialty upset of the week possibility, that's for sure. I don't know. I do think Van Treese, so far from what I've seen, is a better quarterback than what I've seen from Bryn. But again, it's early. That could be coming down the road for the Eagles. We'll have to see how that portion plays out. You did touch on that Wake Forest ODU matchup. That one's at 12 noon as well on ESPN2. Wake's favored by 2 touchdowns. What do you think on the spread there to start with? I mean, I don't know how good Wake Forest is. They are 2-0 going into this one, but
2-0 against who?
Yeah, I'd probably have to look that up. Let's do that now because I'm not sure who they play.
Yeah, I mean, they played Elon and they played Vanderbilt.
Yeah, that's.
That doesn't shock me. I don't fear that if I'm ODU, especially coming off the performance I just had. It doesn't shock me at all.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. I think in that one, man, I don't know. I would love to take ODU for obvious reasons, right? But
I know I want to so bad now, especially I feel like we owe them. But then we pick them this game, and this will be the game that things go super left for ODU. But I'm proud of ODU for what they did last week. I think it was a great performance by them, and I think there's certainly something for them to build on. That's for sure. And if they're going to build against anybody, Wake Forest is the team to do it against. Again, Vanderbilt, not impressed. Certainly not impressed by Elon. Them beating Elon. So It's doable. It's certainly doable.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree that it's doable. They'll need a big game. They've got Henderson there on the defensive side. He's going to be a big aspect in this. Wake Forest runs that slow mesh, as they call it, where it's almost like a triple option RPO type of offense. As long as they play some assignment football there early, they can stay in this one. Especially if they're putting up 38 points like they did against Louisiana. I'm not sure exactly what Wake offers on the defensive side of things. So that one's going to be pretty interesting for sure, as we see highlights here of when they did take down Virginia Tech just last year. Actually, these highlights may be from this season's game. I can't be sure just yet. But either way, they've done it within the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, and it can
certainly happen again, especially with how much better they look than what we had initially thought heading into the season. After that, we have Texas A&M, matching up with ULM. Who would have thought ULM would come in 2-0 and Texas A&M would be only 1-1? So ULM's in this one, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I would like for him to. I certainly him obviously pulling for Sunbelt in really all of these games. But I don't know. I don't know that they have enough. I mean, like I said, the difference in these kinds of games is always going to come down to, and we've said it on previous shows, say it again, we'll beat it into the ground. Up front is where these games are won and lost. Now, the way to get around that is to just be fast. You got to be faster than the other team. You got to be more accurate and precise in your passing game. You got to have a sophisticated passing game, sophisticated enough that you buy your quarterback some time and get him out of the pocket, right? Get him rolling away from line of scrimmage, create some space for him. Have easy reads where he's reading one side of the field and he's not having to process a lot of information at one time, get the ball out quick, those kinds of things. That's, if you're going to win this kind of game, that's how it's won. It's, being able to process information quickly and not have a lot of options to choose from. But, I don't know that UL Monroe has that kind of offense. I don't know that they have that kind of skill set, to be quite honest.
Right.
So it's a matchup of, really, we're bigger than you, we're stronger than you, we're better than you, and this time it's going to matter, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think you're catching Texas A&M at a bad time. You just lost their ranking. They did play pretty well against Miami. Miami looked pretty phenomenal in that one. You're going to get a team who's got plenty of stuff on film to watch and correct before they get into this one. So I don't think this is the type of team you really want to be running into this week. Unfortunately, they will, and it's not a home game. So not going to be doing them any favors. But, hey, once again, if the Sunbelt can pull 2 victories off over Texas A&M within 2 seasons.
I'll take it.
That would be freaking awesome.
Mhm.
Speaking of somebody who didn't pull off a massive victory last week, we had Southern Miss and Florida State not go so great, but now we've got them going up against Tulane. What do you think you might see in that one? Tulane did drop their game to, I think it was a Ole Miss or was it Mississippi State? I can't remember which one they matched up with.
I believe it was Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
I believe. I can't really. Now you got me thinking I might be wrong.
I think we're right. I think it's Ole Miss.
Yeah, I believe it is Ole Miss. I think Tulane's a good football team. I think they're better than what they showed last week for sure. And I think they'll come out pretty strong against Southern Miss. I don't know that Southern Miss has enough overall to withstand what Tulane's going to do. And Tulane's front four, I said, we said it last week. They are insane.
Yeah.
Their pass rush at zero, I forget his name, but he's ridiculous. I mean, he's like, what is he, 290, and he's like 6'3", 6'4". I mean, kid he's a monster. So I don't know that they have anybody that can block him. I don't know that anybody has anybody that can block him short of a Power 5. So yeah, I mean, I think that might in itself tell the difference in the ballgame.
Very true. I just realized that I didn't keep scrolling down, and we missed some games in the recap. But anyway, we were both wrong on the UConn Georgia State game, by the way.
Yeah, Georgia State did a number
which
on
is good,
as a matter of fact. Which if I'm wrong, I want to be wrong in our direction, not the other way around. So happy for Coach Sean Elliott. I'm happy for Georgia State and what they've done to UConn. I thought with the way that UConn lost to NC State, I thought they showed just enough that they could beat Georgia State, and I'm happy I was wrong about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what this game here is the one that made me think about that. We didn't even touch on Florida State and Southern Miss. Not that there was much to touch on.
I was going to say, not that we really needed to, but
no, in fact, most of these games are ones that we didn't really need to touch on. The closest one out of all of them was the ULM Lamar game, which we had just had highlights of. But yeah, I guess the Sun Belt went 2 for 2 in the 4 games we forgot. Georgia State beat UConn. Memphis crushed Arkansas State, not overly surprising, although I thought it'd be closer. But and then Monroe took care of Lamar. That wasn't a surprise. And Florida State, as we see and we're talking about now, goes down, or Southern Miss goes down to Florida State there. All right, so we did just touch on Georgia State. We'll get back into the upcoming games as Georgia State matches up with Charlotte. A little bit interesting of a matchup. They actually did play last season with Charlotte winning, as surprising as that was. I think, if I remember correctly, Georgia State had just come off a game against North Carolina and performed very well and had that close game, but they go, I think it was even a home game, because I think this one's in Charlotte. So I don't know what happened last year, but you got to think that Georgia State's going to come out and not lose a game. I mean, they're 2-0 on the season. They can stay undefeated and be 3-0 if they win this one.
Yeah, I think I'm certainly picking Georgia State. I'm tired of picking against them. I want them to win. I don't have anything against Charlotte. I just don't care for them that much. And then obviously, the line is Georgia State minus 7.5. 7.5 is a lot. I know in college football it's not, but in football in general, 7.5 points. That's a lot. That's a wide margin. So, and those guys down in Vegas, they know what they're talking about. So I'm gonna ride that wave and go with Georgia State over Charlotte.
Yeah, I think I'll do the same. I know Charlotte actually was playing pretty close to Maryland this past weekend, but I don't know. I think Georgia State could finally be what everyone had kind of hoped they were going to be last year, I think, or thought they were going to be last year. This might actually be the year, at least so far. They had a little struggle with Rhode Island. I think Rhode Island's a pretty good FCS team, though. I will say that.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. We got some comments coming in, so let's jump on some of this. Chris Henson says this was dope. That's pretty cool because we haven't really had any live comments. But He wants to talk about Colorado. We got two people wanting to talk about Colorado. We're going to get that. Extra
Yeah,
points.
yeah.
We're going to come up with that.
We are not going to end
we
this
got-
show without talking about Shedeur Sanders. That's for sure.
Yeah. What do you see coming from UConn this upcoming week to make them worth talking about? And out of all the teams who lost this week, who you think have the most to prove for the rest of the season? Who do you think will rise to the occasion? We'll save all those for the extra points, and we'll try and get through these next games real quick. South Alabama, Oklahoma State. Any chance the Jaguars can go up there and surprise the Cowboys in this one?
No. And I say no because Oklahoma State has played pretty piss poorly over the last couple games. They've won them, but not they haven't played well. And I think that they're going to come out and want to make a statement against South Alabama. And I would actually hate to be South Alabama this week because I do think that Oklahoma State is going to come out with a point to prove.
I don't think it's going to go well for South Alabama either. I'd love to be wrong. Before this season started, I thought this matchup could be better. I don't know with what I've seen out of South Alabama if they're as good as I thought. It's kind of like how I felt about Georgia State last year. I thought Georgia State was going to be like the second best team in the East last year. That's what I had predicted going into the season. South Alabama, I predicted to be number one in the West. I'm really not sure about that. I mean, hell, I think Texas State could end up above this team from what I've seen so far. As far as West teams go, we got another one that's been a little disappointing so far in Louisiana, matching up against UAB. Obviously, we just touched on Georgia Southern taking care of business versus UAB. What do we think the Cajuns are going to bring to this matchup against Trent Dilfer's Blazers?
Unfortunately, not enough. Unfortunately, I mean, the way they played last week, I just don't see it. I mean, Old Dominion, they're proving us wrong. They're proving us to be, they're proving to be a very good football team. That said, I don't believe Louisiana should have lost to them. That tells me that they're not sound on defense, and it tells me that UAB, the way they played against Georgia State or Georgia Southern, with Georgia Southern winning and pulling away the way they did, they're going to have a point to prove as well. I'm picking UAB.
Oh man, this is a tough.
I hate going against the Sun Belt so much, but that's just. I mean, I got to call it how I see it.
Yeah, and there was some times where UAB didn't look so great to me when I'm watching that game back, and there were some times they did look really great. Man, I'm gonna take the Cajuns just to mix it up here.
Okay.
Not overly confident, but I feel like they're gonna really want to rebound after last week. So I'm gonna take a shot and a flyer on the Cajuns. I don't know, 31-21, something.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm not mad about it.
I don't know, something real close.
I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah. All right. Well, this next game I think we'll both agree on. Duquesne's going to come and play Coastal Carolina. I'm taking the Beach Chickens in this one.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Beach Chickens. Yeah, I'm going with them as well. Duquesne's not going to have enough. I mean, they're a basketball school. They're not going to be able to do any. And again, Coastal at home, they didn't play well last week, and they got the win. We talked about it earlier. They didn't play as well as we thought they should play, but I don't think Duquesne has enough.
No, I don't think so. Now, here's an interesting one: Stony Brook coming to Arkansas State. Arkansas State obviously having a really down year so far. Not a whole lot.
Well, it doesn't help with who they're playing too. I mean, they got the hell beat out of them by Memphis, and Memphis is no slow league.
No, and before that, they got absolutely destroyed by Oklahoma. I mean,
Jesus. Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't help when your first two games are Oklahoma and Memphis back to back, two very good teams, respectfully, and so listen, one or two things is going to happen. Either Arkansas State is going to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and say, "Hey guys, this is not who we are. Let's get back to playing some good football, and let's go and put on a good show and show them what we can do." Or, woe is me, and it's just not our year. And Stony Brook comes in there, and so I'm not surprised if this game goes far south in one direction or the other, if that makes sense. I'm picking Arkansas State because I'm hoping they have enough gumption and enough, fortitude to bounce back and be who we want them to be. But I'm not surprised if it goes either way.
Yeah. I was going to see if I could bring up Stony Brook's schedule to see what they've done so far. Okay.
I mean, they're 0-2.
Yeah, they're 0-2, and they scored 13 and 14 points. Okay. I am confidently picking Arkansas State to finally win this one and hopefully win this one convincingly by like 4 touchdowns at least. I think they'll try and get out of there and just hammer them. Jackson State and Texas State, which a matchup that would have been much cooler to see last year, I think.
Right.
However, well, I guess last year's version of Jackson State and this year's version of Texas, I should remedy that.
I was here to say, because last year's version of Jackson State and Texas State, that's a no contest.
Yeah. Well, that one is kind of the nightcap there. We're gonna end with probably the best matchup in the Sun Belt this weekend. But that one I wanted to touch real quick. Jackson State, Texas State. You think that Texas State wakes up after that UTSA game and takes care of business there against Jackson State?
I think they better. I think they absolutely better if they want to have a chance at salvaging their season. Obviously, 6 games get you a bowl game, but the type of bowl game matters, and it's going to be hard starting out 1-2 to get back on that right track. So I think they start out. Although Jackson State has done well, they won last week, and I think they won the week prior. So
they won week 0, and last week they lost.
Okay, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was.
The Rattlers of Florida A&M, which I'm not sure if I know enough about them to say whether that's a decent loss or not.
Right, I can't call that one. So, but a win is a win, and confidence is confidence. And also, when you're the underdog, you come out with your chest out and with something to prove. Because here's the other thing: you got nothing to lose if you're Jackson State. This game means nothing to you. So it means nothing for you in conference. It means nothing for you in playoff selection. So go out there and let it all hang out. So that's what Texas State has to worry about and guard against, is that Jackson State's going to pull out all the stops because they got nothing to lose. They're going to be fearless. So I'm picking Texas State. My hope is that they get it together. They better get it together. But, not surprised if Jackson State gives them a good fight.
Yeah. I'm going with Texas State too. I hope it's not that close, but it wouldn't shock me. I mean, Jackson State, I've seen a little bit more than I thought I would have them so far, just because I watched more of their week 0 game than I thought I would. I was actually impressed. Yeah, hard to say exactly what they'll look like against a group of 5 teams since it was FCS to FCS. So we'll see where that goes. However, now we're at the biggest one of the weekend, at least in my mind, the one that everybody wanted to kind of see last year, James Madison versus Troy. This one on the NFL Network at 7 p.m. And I'm glad it's on a channel that's going to give it the proper coverage because this could have, should have, would have been the Sun Belt Championship last year had James Madison been eligible to be in it. Now we're finally going to get the matchup. Who do you think takes this one, or you think it's close or a blowout? I mean, what are your thoughts here?
So the line, the guys down in Vegas, the line is three. Troy -3. So, God.
Yeah, and you just have what's really weird is a group of 5 versus Power 5 matchup on both sides of the equation before this one. But they went opposite directions.
I was going to say 2 very different ends of that. So, you got one team in James Madison that's going to come in riding high. We beat Virginia. In my opinion, and I'm sure you share the same sentiment, I don't know that beating Virginia is enough to beat your chest about, right? True. Nobody's celebrating beating Virginia. We don't give a damn about how good Virginia is in football. They're a basketball school, and we know that. And even then in basketball, they're hard to watch. Unless you like fundamentals.
Not a fun team to watch.
No, not at all. So I nothing to brag about, nothing to write home about if you're James Madison. And if you come in with that mindset, then I think beating Troy seems a lot more realistic. On the other hand, you got Troy who desperately needs a bounce back game. Desperately. And they almost have to have this. You got James Madison who's playing really for nothing. They're not going to be bowl eligible. So, they letting it all hang out, so to speak. I know I've used that phraseology a little bit earlier, but they got nothing to lose. So it's a scary trap. I don't want to use the word trap because James Madison is good, but it's a scary game for Troy, and because Troy needs it, they need this win.
Yeah, and I think it was JMU too that you said had a good size wide receiver. I don't know if they have as many of them as Troy,
yeah, he's big.
but with where these teams are as far as passing the ball and rushing the ball, I mean, it's incredible how even they are. 201, right. 207. That's for passing. Rushing 214 and 206. I mean, this one's going to be one of those ones that it's going to be like punch for punch, or it's going to be this really weird defensive battle that nobody really saw coming, like Texas State and UTSA was last week. The other interesting aspect is 2 teams combined over their last 5 games, only 1 loss. That was the K-State loss. Now, that's obviously dating back to last season, but impressive that these 2 teams come in with such a good last 5 games between them. I can't wait to watch this one. I won't be home because I'll be traveling back from that East Carolina app game. This is one that's going on the YouTube TV, no free ads, but it's going on the YouTube TV so I can come home and watch it because I think it's going to be good. It doesn't matter to me personally if it's a defensive battle or offensive.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I just care about
all I want to see is good football, and I think they're going to get that from these 2 teams.
100%. 100% agree. I didn't answer your question. I didn't pick a team, and I'm still deciding who I wanted because it's going to be hard, man. Like I said, Troy needs it. James Madison coming off a great win. I'm rolling with the Dukes, man. I think I'm rolling with James Madison. I just like what they did last week. I like who they are. I like the way they spin the ball. I like McLeod needs to get a little bit better in terms of ball placement, but overall, I think I like them a little bit more.
I'll go the other direction again, just for a little head-to-head battle here. I'll go with Troy. As an app guy anyway, I'd like to see Troy beat James Madison for that reason.
Sure.
Why not? I'll pick the team that could and should be stronger defensively. I don't know if that's true yet, but based off of last year and where they think they still are, I'll go with Troy, having the defense turn around a little bit after getting beat up by K-State there in that last game. So with that, we will move on to our first time segment, as we want to call it, extra points here, TJ. Is there anything you want to start off with, or should we go back to these comments that we got from some of our followers here?
Yeah, you know where I want to go, and this ties into the comments that we got from our followers. Colorado, Shedeur Sanders just continues to put on a clinic. You're talking – it's getting to a point now where it's starting to get a little ridiculous, because people are moving the goalposts, right? They're saying, at the beginning of the season, they'd be lucky to win, 2 or 3 games. They're lucky to win this. TCU is going to kill them. And then now they beat TCU. And then it's, TCU wasn't a very good team. They lost half their roster to the NFL, blah, blah, blah. And then they beat the real test is going to be, at home against Nebraska. And then they end up beating Nebraska, and Shedeur throws for 393 and 2 touchdowns against Nebraska. And it's like, they haven't played a real team yet. They keep moving the goalposts. And they're going to continue to do that until they play USC, and then they lose by 12 or 13 points, whatever. And everybody's going to say, see, I told you they weren't as good as you thought they were. Well, how good did you think they were going to be? They won a game last year. They're already better than they were the entire year last year. So, to me, I think we're looking at a team, and we're looking at the Deion effect. And what I don't know that Deion's lost anything ever in his life, maybe a game or 2 here or there. But everything this man touches turns to gold. Yeah. And I think it rubs off on his son. I think it rubs off on both of his sons. Travis Hunter went both ways again. I can't remember exactly how many snaps he played. Impact player again. I just think that Colorado, what they're doing right now is sensational. I think what Deion has done for the game of football, he's allowed those guys to be themselves. I think it was a quote he said last week. We get up by 21 or so and you score and you make a big play, do your dance, be who you are. And you want that kind of support from your coach. Obviously, within the rules of the game, you don't get up and showboat and that kind of stuff. But, have some vibrato, be fun with it. I remember watching the 90s Miami team back in the day when they had Clinton Portis and Kellen Winslow and, you know, all those guys, they were dancing on you. They were doing, you know, Jimmy Johnson's Hurricanes were doing what Deion's team is going to be doing hopefully here soon. So I say all that to say what Colorado is doing, man. I love it. I'm on the bandwagon. You can call me whatever you want to call me, but I am riding the bus. I don't care if it's on the bottom, if I'm where the luggage is, just put me on the bus, man. Let me, wherever they're going, I'm going with them, and I'm tuned in every week.
Yeah, I bought into. I think I covered this on last night's show on the podcast. His speech. I don't know if they titled it this, but it's personal. Did you see that before the game, man?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I was ready to. I mean, you know, what's funny is most of these people probably think these speeches to rile these guys up and get them ready is a bunch of yelling and getting in people's faces and physically pushing people around. And there is some of that, but that speech did all of that without getting ever yelling around or anything. It was just a calm speech, but you could feel it and it was real, and he was connecting with his players through it. And I think, you know, like you said, they want to play for him. They want to have fun, and it's changing the whole game, literally. And it's awesome to see it.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Deion in general. And I love to see them continue to have success, and I hope they do. I don't really have a Big 12 team. I never really claimed a Big 12 team, and you know, maybe I like the Buffs now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe so. Like I said, I didn't even think about Colorado before this year, and I mean, and that's the effect that Deion has. I mean, I didn't think about Jackson State before Deion went there, and then last year I watched every game, and it's going to be the same this year. So I think, again, like I said, we're beating dead horses here at this point, but talking about, I mean, you can't say enough about the changes Deion has made and bringing college football back and making it fun again. It's fun, and it's fun to watch. It's always fun. Obviously, football purists, we're always going to love the game, the X's and O's, but the other stuff is what we live for, because, you know, it gives us something like you and I, especially, to talk about and other people to listen to. So certainly polarizing, that's for sure. One direction or the other doesn't matter. But you know, it's there for our consumption, and I love it.
Yeah. So Tar Heel Slimmy says, what do you think their outcome is for the year? Do you have any thoughts on where they'll get to, or what they could obtain?
So I think they lose 3 games. I don't know which 3. I think they lose USC.
Yeah.
I think they lose to Oregon, and I think they lose to either Utah or Oklahoma. Is it Oklahoma State? Or no, Oregon State. Sorry, either
Oregon
Utah
State.
or Oregon State.
Yep.
One of those 2. I don't think they lose to both of them, but I don't think they lose more than 3 games. But I think if I'm picking those 3 games, those are the ones that they lose. Now they could stumble along the way. Here's the other thing: they might slip up and beat one of the teams that I don't see them beating USC. Caleb Williams is next level. I mean, he's otherworldly at this point. I mean, he's basically Patrick Mahomes in a college uniform. It just looks silly. I mean, it looks ridiculous what he's doing on the. I mean, it's a video game. Like what is even happening when you watch him play? So I don't think that they have enough, certainly up front, but also just enough. They can't. I don't think that they can stick to a defender or a receiver long enough to not give Caleb Williams a window to throw to or throw through. So I'm picking them to lose against USC. I'm picking them to lose against Oregon. I think Oregon is tough. I think they're depth. I think they're just too fast. And like I said, either Oregon State or Utah. I'm not sold on Utah after as close as they played against Baylor. I think there might be some change and some shakeup. I think that number 12 ranking, it may go down as the season goes on. We'll see how it goes. I think they play them towards the end of the year, so we'll find out who they really are at that point. But
last game of the year.
Yep. End of the year kind of deal.
They might have Cam Rising back, which could make them a better team.
Exactly.
But you don't know.
Yeah. So we'll see. Like I said, it just depends.
Yeah. So with how good the Pac-12 has been in their last season ever, which is the weirdest thing, they only have 4 unranked teams on their schedule the rest of the way. Now, that obviously can change by the time they get to these games,
Sure,
but
sure.
as of right now, every team, almost every team on their schedule has a ranking beside it at the moment,
Yeah.
besides 4 teams. And they got game day this weekend as they host Colorado State. That'll be fun there in Boulder. That's another reason why I'm kind of a Colorado fan. Been to Denver a couple times and gone out to Boulder once at least. It does
Likewise.
have that like real college feel to it. It's right beside Denver, really. Boulder is like a stone's throw away. It's not far at all. But definitely a whole different vibe altogether than what Denver provides you. So it's just a cool place, man. And the mountains are like right there. It's a beautiful campus.
Agreed.
So yeah, I'll go as far as to say that they're definitely in a bowl game.
Oh, for sure.
I could see them losing at least what you've said, maybe even 1 or possibly 2 more, but still looking good in those losses.
Right.
But man, I hope it's less. I don't know if they could do it, but if they could somehow find their way into the college football playoff, everyone will shut the hell up real quick.
Oh my God! You would first of
all.
all, I'm not even I'm a Deion fan. I'm a Cowboy. So been a Deion Sanders fan since I was 8. I think I was 8 years old. 95 watching. So, no. Yeah, 9 years old watching Deion Sanders play. In my living room with my dad, watching him go, play both sides of the field. So,
oh yeah,
I've been a Deion fan since way back. So everything he does, I'm tuned into. And if they go to the CFP, I'm telling you, you're not gonna shut me up. That's gonna be almost as good as Dallas in the playoffs. I will not shut up about that. So, but no, I'm excited. I'm excited for Deion. I'm excited for Colorado, and I really, like I said, having a lot of fun watching them. Man, it's so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Whether it's in the locker room with Deion making speeches or watching them on the field, it's been fun, and I'd love to see it continue. Kristen Pearson asked, "What do you need to see from UConn this upcoming week to make them worth talking about next week?"
I need to see them win.
I mean, so far they haven't, but they've looked better than they did last year. They got destroyed by NC State, but now this year was a 10-point game. Looking a little bit better. They got FIU this weekend, which is no pushover. I mean, they're not
I was
great.
going to say FIU is a pretty good team. I think they're going to be. I think FIU is going to finish well in their conference, respectively. I just don't know that UConn. They have. I don't think they have enough. I think they're building, like you said. I think they're coming a long way because last year they got routed by almost everybody. This year, like I said, still lost, but margins are closer, and I think they're coming together and they're gelling a little bit more. I think we'll find out who UConn really is probably game 4 or 5 into the year, and that's really where it starts for really all these teams. You start getting into conference play, and you determine who you are. So I got to see a little bit more from them. I got to see a win this week. And they got to right the ship at some point.
Yeah, and if they win this week, next week, they've got a very possibly ranked Duke team, which could be interesting, honestly, because I don't know if Duke's really supposed to be ranked. I'll say that.
Yeah, I don't know about Duke yet, because here's the thing. I don't know that Clemson's as good as they've been in the past. So I don't know how to take that loss for Clemson or that win for Duke, however you want to slice it. I don't know how to process that yet, because I don't know who Duke is, but I know who Clemson is not. And that's what they were a year ago and in years past. They don't have the talent. DJ, he's gone over. I think DJ's with
Oregon State.
Oregon State now. So they're not the same team that they were, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes, but that's going to tell a big story. Again, they need to beat FIU first. Let's start there. Let's not look ahead. Let's start there. Let's have them win against FIU, and then we'll see how they fare against Duke. If Duke is who I think they are, this game might not be close.
Yeah, true. It's very, very true, and certainly going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye out on. She also asked, out of all the teams who lost last week, who do you think has the most to prove for the rest of the season? I think in fairness here, we have to kind of stick at the top 25, right? I mean,
right, yeah. When
you
you're
could
talking
talk about all kinds of teams that lost, but of the teams that lost, so I'm gonna say I'll start this off and give you some time to maybe look it over.
or yeah, that's what I'm looking at now.
To me, it's pretty easy. Who do you think has the most to prove? Alabama. They don't have a great quarterback situation right now. They need to prove that they can remedy that, fix that, make that better, and become kind of the Alabama that everybody knows and is used to. Now, obviously, they got the talent everywhere else. They didn't get blown out by Texas. They just got beat. And
Right.
Texas, I don't know if Texas is back, but they are certainly improved. And we have to see if Alabama, everyone thought that they might be the ones that could come in and keep Georgia from winning 3 straight. I don't this year. I don't know if I see that from what I've seen from them so far. I think they've got the most to prove because they're supposed to be there, right? Everyone assumes they're going to be there. Now you got to
Right.
prove it to me on the field. So I'm picking Alabama, as weird as that sounds, before the season started. I think it's something I'll do now.
Yeah, so I know the question was who lost that has the most to prove, but I'll answer the most to prove question by going with Penn State. Even though they did win, Penn State never ever ever pans out to be who we want them to be, or who they think they can be, or who we think they should be. Every single year, they fill us with this false hope of, we're ranked top 10, we're going to be in the college football playoffs, we're this, we're that, and then Ohio State comes along, and then Michigan comes along, and then Wisconsin comes along, or and even they even have tough games against Michigan State sometimes, and it's like, I don't know who you are. I never know who Penn State is until about the 8th or 9th game into the season, and by then it's too late. So, again, it's not answering the question who lost and has the most to prove, but I do think overall Penn State, I think they got to show me that they can do what they're doing now continuously. That they've had 2 very good solid wins. I got to see more. They do this to me every year.
Yeah. Well, you spoke about growing up a Cowboys fan. I grew up a Penn State fan. I didn't care about pro football till I was in like junior and senior year of high school. So Penn State
Fair.
was my football team. So yes, I know what you mean when you say every year they kind of fool you for a long time before they figure out whether they're really going to be there in the end or not.
Right.
So we both, going off the question a little bit, but I do agree with you. They've got to, if they really want to be here, they got to beat Michigan and Ohio State.
Yes, that's it. At least beat one of them. Beat one of them.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to be hard. It's tough sledding beating both Ohio State and Michigan. I don't like Ryan Day, but I do know he's a great coach. Khaki Pants over in Michigan, he's always going to have those guys ready. And I think I call him Khaki Pants because that's what Shannon Sharp called.
I was wondering where that came
Harbaugh.
from. I thought it was like, does he not remember his name off the top of his head?
No. I know who he is, and I wanted to make sure I cleared that up for our audience. I do know who Harbaugh is, but Shannon Sharp calls him Khaki Pants, so I'm gonna call him Khaki Pants.
There you go.
They're gonna be tough coach, but they got to beat one of them. They got to beat one of them for me to take them seriously. I mean, they just can't keep losing to them back to back every single year and thinking that that's going to be okay. I mean, settling for what is it, the Cotton Bowl, and Cotton Bowl's a great bowl. Don't get me wrong, but it's a group of 5 bowl. It's not a Power 5 bowl. It's not for you, right? The Cotton Bowl is not for P5s. It's for P5s who can't peak, and they play against a group of 5 team who's right on the doorstep, and that's what it is. And Penn State has been there far too often. App State should have beat them a couple years back. So, I know we've gone on a tangent with this, but yeah, certainly Penn State, in my opinion, has the most to prove.
I don't disagree. Tarios, let me ask one more question, which is a good one, a very valid one. Will Georgia three-peat? I'll let you think. Yeah, I'm just gonna say no, just on the numbers. Like this doesn't happen, and it hasn't happened in CFP era yet. So I'm just gonna say no in that regard. But I do think they stand a great chance to be right there on the cusp because of their schedule. Yes, it's an SEC schedule. The SEC seems to be just slightly down, at least this season, and they don't really have a real. I mean, it's hard to say the Auburn game's not big because it's at Auburn, and we know weird things happen there, with Alabama in the past.
Yep.
But they got Vanderbilt, they got UAB, they got a South Carolina team that appears to be pretty down. Florida's not looking great. Missouri, I don't know. Maybe Missouri's kind of a surprise team.
No. Missouri's not going to be a surprise team. They piss me off every year. No, Missouri's not going to be good. Every year I keep hoping Missouri's going to be good, and they should have went to the SEC. I don't even know why they anyway, don't get me started because I don't know why Missouri is in the SEC. They do not belong there.
Yeah, well, now's the perfect time for them to move back to the Big 12 with all these teams coming to the Big 12.
Happy hunting. Go back and do whatever it is that you were doing before this. Yeah. But to answer the question, so I get your point. The part of it that from a numbers perspective, it screams no. 3-peat, absolutely not. You're talking to a guy though who did 3-peat.
That's true.
And so, in my opinion, anything's possible. But even further than that, if you're looking at the college football landscape, who are you taking right now? If they lined up one-on-one, man for man against Georgia, who are you taking to beat them? I'm certainly not taking Alabama. Certainly not taking LSU. I'm not taking Ohio State. I'm not taking Oregon or maybe USC based for talent. And that's just because of the quarterback play. But apart from Caleb Williams, the rest of the team is a no for me. I mean, and that's an emphatic no. So, I know it's hard to pick a team versus the field, but if I'm picking a team versus the field, Georgia's not a bad one to go with.
I'm staying away from USC because that defense has not sold me yet.
No, not
offensively, I think they've got some playmakers, right? I mean, just USC, they always got top, 5-star talent and all that. Two teams that I would think match up on paper pretty well right now, right this second, that I'll throw out there. I'll see what you think. Michigan and Florida State.
Florida State, yes. Michigan, no. And I say Michigan, no, because Michigan historically has done horribly against the SEC. They're as big. They're just not fast. They're never fast enough. True. I mean, this is going back to 2007 when we played them. They're just not fast enough. It's one thing to be big and to be strong and to be corn-fed up front. It's another thing to also be big, strong, and corn-fed up front, like the guys down in the South, and also be fast. You see what I'm saying? There's some freaks down there in the South, and it gets worse or better depending on how you look at it the further south you go. Yeah. So, I mean, those guys down in Georgia, I mean, I don't know what they're eating, what's in the chicken, but these guys, they're built different, man.
It's Dano. That's what it is.
That's what it is.
One more ad in there before we go.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it's Michigan, no. Florida State, I would say possibly, only because their quarterback, I don't think can match up great. I think he makes some terrible decisions at times, but I think he's enough in terms of a liability for your defense and hard to account for because he's all over the field. I think that could give them some problems. But up front, Georgia's going to be – I mean, they got a defensive end right now that's – I think he's 6'4", 270-some pounds, and he runs a 4.5 40. You're not outrunning him.
No.
What are we talking about? So again, it's hard to pick a team versus the field. But if I'm picking a team versus the field to do it again, Georgia's not a bad pick. So I don't know if I answered the question, but not mad about it.
Yeah, I think you answered his question. I think with the schedule, that could lead to them staying healthier. And the healthier you are at the end of the season, the better you're probably going to be. So that, kind of could go hand in hand. So I don't disagree with that at all. I think I figured out how to share these on the screen. So here we go.
Oh, nice.
A comment for you from our fearless leader, Hunter at College Football Dogs.
What's up, Joe? How old is Joe now? I'm 36. So Joe's what? 37? Yeah, Joe's 37 years old. It's time for him to hang it up, man.
Is he still playing?
I think he's done. Or is he? I don't know. He did have a good career though. I'm not gonna lie.
I heard his name come up after the Aaron Rodgers injury.
Well, and I was thinking about that, but I don't know that. I mean, even last year he was with the Jets, wasn't he? And they still played Mike White over him. So the answer is no.
Gotcha. Yeah. And he saw you play in Chat Town there.
Yeah, that was an awesome game. Delaware outside of Flacco, and I can't remember their running back's name. Outside of those two, I don't know that they weren't good enough. They weren't going to be good enough. And we heard all week about how talented Joe Flacco and their running back were, and that they were NFL guys. And we stepped on the field and we were Omar, and about how talented they were at the time. And I was just it was hard to because we had Sticks and Marcus, and we had Gary Tharrington and Jock Roman and Pierre Banks, and on our defense it was rough. It was tough sledding for them.
Yeah, well, it's like you said, in a different sense. It was a little bit of an SEC type speed with some power versus the corn-fed guys that are just strong and not that fast. I think that's exactly what you saw on the field. It's also like poetic justice really isn't the word I'm looking for, but somewhat poetic that you start the season with the winged helmets opponent and you end the season with the winged helmets.
So that was part of it too.
Yeah.
That was part of it too. We called them Fake Michigan.
Yeah, that was a good nickname for them. Well, and then Hunter says they weren't supposed to make it that far. Well,
hey, listen, you got as far as you got. And here's another thing too. There's something to be said. I know there's no, I don't know. There's no moral victories in football, right? We know you lose, L is an L, but getting to the dance, getting to the big game, it matters, right? It matters. I know it's hard. Nobody remembers second place, but I can guarantee you the teams that played them remember. I'll never forget Joe Flacco. I'll never forget, Omar. I know those guys are good, and I know that they had a good team. It's just they ran into us, who would just happen to be a better team at the time. So it's something to be said for getting to the dance. It's kind of like the LeBron thing where everybody's like, he went to the finals, 12 or 13 times, and he's only got 4 championships or however many times he went. I'm like, yeah, but he got there.
Yeah.
And so it's something to be said for getting to the show. Getting to the show matters. So, they get their Buffalo Bills. They got a whole documentary on losing in the Super Bowl 4 years back to back. So,
oh yeah, absolutely,
Hunter. No problem, man. I'm excited about it. Super pumped to be a part of the show.
Yeah, and we'll take one more caller. Well, one more comment from Tar Heel Slimmy. Who do you think wins the Heisman, TJ?
Caleb Williams. It's not close. It's not, and maybe Shador, I like him. Travis, I like him. There's some guys out there that can play some football, but the answer is Caleb Williams on the front and the back of my paper.
You just became Hunter's favorite person because he's a big USC and Caleb Williams fan. So there you go. You also got points, and you didn't even know you were doing it.
I didn't. I just call it how I see it, and my contacts are in.
Yeah. Well, here we go. I told you he wasn't gone.
I'll take it. I got bills.
Yeah. He's actually out there in LA. If you've watched the show, it's not a fake background. He's really got skyscrapers behind him from his lofty apartment complex or home up there in
his
LA.
palatial estate.
Yeah. So I don't disagree with you. It's like you said earlier, he's Patrick Mahomes' college football version, and it's not even close. There'll be other people there in New York, but unless he, knock on wood, wherever that may be, gets injured or something, there's no way he doesn't win it.
Agreed.
His teams
100%.
could lose 3 or 4 games. I think he's still going to put up the offensive numbers to be there, and it's going to have the highlight film that everybody wants to watch because he's just it's like Armani Edwards to that extent.
Yeah.
He's just fun to watch. He's easy to watch because he makes it look so effortless. And even when
he's easy to root for too because he seems like a good kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I don't disagree with you at all in that one. I think I think he'll be there when it's all said and done. So, yeah, I guess any other topics you want to touch on before we wrap this thing up and almost go as long as our longest show ever so far?
I was gonna say we took some time tonight, but no, I'm good to go, man. I think we touched on everything. Super pumped again to be a part of it. Thanks, Hunter, for chiming in. Thanks for everybody who wrote us, asked some questions. Really appreciate you guys and the fan base. Hopefully it grows. We want to see this thing really take off, and adding this portion to it really gives us a chance to interact with you guys and ask and answer some real time questions. So thank you guys for participating. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And TJ, where can the good people find you and the great food that you're cooking with some Dano's seasoning here?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Thick Thighs and Large Fries. Give me a follow, a like. I actually just put up a new post last night of I cooked an 18 ounce porterhouse on the flat top. Yeah. It was all the emotions. It was all the emotions. So yeah, and then I roasted 2 Cornish hens and some Brussels sprouts last night too. So did some meal prepping for the week. So
nice.
Yeah, Thick Thighs, Large Fries.
Yeah, we'll have to certainly do that live show we had kind of talked about before with some of this going on around us because just for me, I don't care if the people see it. I just want to do it for me.
And me too, because I'm gonna be snacking while we're there. And also, you ought to just come over, bring your stuff, just come over, and we can taste some food and do it all at one time. So we'll see. We'll see if we can make that happen.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We need to bookmark that.
Yeah.
So we'll get that rolling and follow us along on Sunbelt Syndicate across all social platforms as well. We will have more branded content for you, and tune in next week when we go and do it all over again. Hopefully a little better, a little cleaner on the clips. We'll clean that up.
Yeah, but listen, we're new to this. We're not true to this. We're getting there. We'll bear with us, buy us some time. I think the content is there, right? I think we're what the people are looking for in terms of the football knowledge is there. We just the technical stuff that'll come. Give us some grace, guys. Give us some grace.
Yeah, absolutely. But thanks for listening, tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.
Sunbelt Syndicate.
Presented by Dano's Seasoning.